Ok, a ver, entonces teóricamente ya debe de estar grabando. Este tiene que ser el segundo video de la clase de Mercadotecnia Social. Y en este video vamos a ver, en el último video lo que les expliqué o todo lo que platicamos fue acerca de las clases en las que no podré estar con ustedes presencialmente y también un poquito de cómo se conforma absolutamente todo el curso y todas las cosas que vamos a estar haciendo en cuanto a la calificación y cómo está estructurado todo el curso, las reglas clave, etc., el proyecto final, todo. Y según yo, lo último en lo que me quedé fue en hablar un poquito de su proyecto final. Vamos a ver algunos videos y algunas ideas de cosas que podrían desarrollar y de ideas y de proyectos que a mí me parecen bastante relevantes y que podrían ser útiles para ustedes a la hora de hacer su presentación final. Entonces, vamos a ver. Esto lo pueden sacar de esta página de YouTube de Challengers, en donde la institución Big Think hace como que una recapitulación de varios proyectos o de varias iniciativas sociales que son como bastante interesantes y podrían resultarles pues muy útiles. El chiste es que quiero que veamos estos videos, los vamos comentando también y son cosas que pueden ayudarlos a inspirarse y tener como más información en caso de que digan, oye, ¿y hasta dónde se puede llevar una iniciativa? ¿Qué tan lejos puede llegar esta clase de proyectos? Etcétera, ¿no? Entonces, nada, déjenme hacer una rápida configuración aquí de el sonido y de... Sí, perfecto. Entonces, vamos a ir viendo uno por uno todos estos videos, ¿va? Denme un segundito. Vamos a empezar por este.
My name is Munzir Dale. I'm a professor of electrical engineering and computer science at MIT. The partnership that we have with professional education has allowed us to...
Los vamos a ir viendo y platicamos de cada uno.
We've gone from 30,000 meals a week before this pandemic to this week 150,000 meals a week. Wow, fully pivoting our entire business to this whole new thing.
Video of hundreds of cards lining up for the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank before it opened yesterday.
One of the consequences of all the closures, cancellations, and layoffs is that some people might not have enough food to eat.
3 years ago, every table started as a restaurant chain aimed at redefining fast food. They wanted to take on the behemoths of the industry. But instead of burgers and fries, every table wanted to serve healthy meals for about $5 a piece and make them available in underserved communities. Their healthy food mission forced them to rethink what a restaurant even is, and in the process, they unknowingly set themselves up to survive in the midst of a pandemic.
It's almost like we took sort of the hardest problem in food. How do you make fresh, healthy food and sell it for less than the price of fast food? And now we've gotten there.
So how'd they do it?
This is like tricolor quinoa.
This is Sam Polk.
Trying to figure out why we have so much of it.
He was a hedge fund trader on Wall Street until he left his job, moved to Los Angeles, and started Every Table.
$1 million for 10% of the company. We'll do it.
From the beginning, Sam was committed to making healthy meals available in food deserts like Watts and Compton.
In Los Angeles County, there's over 1 million Angelenos who experience food insecurity every day. We have twice as many people living in South LA as compared to West LA, but we have half as many grocery stores. And that has a huge impact on life expectancy. For example, the child that grows up in Watts is going to live 12 years less than the child that grows up in Brentwood.
These days, healthy food is a luxury product that is enjoyed by the most affluent. We believe that healthy food is a human right.
To sell healthy food at $5 a meal, Every Table had to rethink everything, starting with their kitchen model. Instead of each store making its own food, all the meals are made in one central kitchen, then distributed across the city. This cuts the cost of opening each new store by 75%. Sam knew diverse lines of business would serve the company in the long term. So they launched vending machines which are very low cost to operate and allow them to reach new markets like hospitals, apartment complexes, or colleges. And they launched a subscription service where they deliver meals to customers at regular intervals.
For us, we've got to make it by a certain time, put it on a delivery truck, have it go out, get there at the right time. When it works, beautiful symphony, and when it doesn't work, this disastrous cluster, basically.
But one of Everytable's most radical business moves is pricing meals differently based on the neighborhood they're sold in. A meal that costs $9 at the Everytable in Brentwood, for example, costs $5 at the one in Compton. This kind of pricing creates equity in the availability of healthy food, and it's also a price that makes scaling possible. And for Sam Polk and Everytable, the goal is to eventually have 37,000 stores, just as many as McDonald's. Because at that size, you can really make a difference in the food system. As an example, you know those apple pies from McDonald's?
Of our new oven-baked apple pie.
The apples inside help make McDonald's the largest buyer of apples in the world. It has affected the types of apples that farmers choose to plant, and as a result, what kinds are available in most grocery stores. McDonald's is also the largest buyer of beef, pork, tomatoes, lettuce, and potatoes in the world. So what happens if Everytable gets to 37,000 stores? What is the impact on the entire food system if healthy food becomes the norm for most people's diets? And what about the impact on communities?
I grew up in what they call Uptown Watts. We didn't have stores that had healthy fruits and vegetables. Everytable don't pay us to promote their brand. But when you look right down the street, we're pushing the brand of Everytable because we believe in what Everytable stands for.
So far, Everytable has been embraced by communities in ways that most fast food brands could only dream of. And now, they're needed more than ever.
From the coronavirus pandemic, many businesses are closed or only offering food to go, and layoffs are widespread.
As the coronavirus pandemic set in, Everytable, like every other restaurant, wondered what its fate would be. But as it would turn out, they've been the only restaurant set up to meet the demands of people that need them most, like seniors and the homeless. So they've partnered with the city of Los Angeles to ensure these vulnerable groups stay fed throughout the pandemic.
There is only one company in this city that is set up to do this, by which I mean like has the food production capabilities and has the logistical capabilities together and has the willingness to sort of go out and match the city at this speed and at this scale. And it's us. So we sort of decided to step up and do it.
Everytable will make more meals in the first 3 months of LA's shelter-in-place order than they did in their first 3 years of business. They're hiring 10 new people a day. Their staff is working around the clock to meet demand, and they've added a new kitchen that's 4 times the size of the original. What the pandemic has proven is that by staying mission-focused and reinventing the fast food business model, they're set up to take on any challenge.
There's people hungry, and there's a city that sort of is in need of sort of our services, and that's what we're going to do.
Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. Please follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so that we can continue.
Entonces, a grandes rasgos, ¿cuál es la idea interesante aquí? Aquí estamos tomando un problema.
Meals a week before this pandemic to this week 150,000 meals a week. Wow, fully pivoting our entire business to this whole new thing.
Video of hundreds of cards lining up for the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank before it opened yesterday.
One of the consequences of all the closures, cancellations, and layoffs is that some people might not have enough food to eat.
3 years ago, Everytable started as a restaurant chain aimed at redefining fast food. They wanted to take on the behemoths of the industry. But instead of burgers and fries, Everytable wanted to serve healthy meals for about $5 a piece and make them available in underserved communities. Their healthy food mission forced them to rethink what a restaurant even is, and in the process, they unknowingly set themselves up to survive in the midst of a pandemic.
It's almost like we took sort of the hardest problem in food. How do you make fresh, healthy food and sell it for less than the price of fast food? And now we've gotten there.
So how'd they do it?
y ha generado revenue, ha generado bastantes beneficios para sus desarrolladores. El chiste con esto, la idea es que podemos tomar una...
This is like tricolor quinoa.
This is sample.
Trying to figure out why we have so much of it.
He was a hedge fund trader on Wall Street until he left his job, moved to Los Angeles, and started Everytable.
Es bastante interesante.
$1 million for 10% of the company. We'll do it.
From the beginning, Sam was committed to making healthy meals available in food deserts like Watts.
Vamos a ver otra idea más. Esta. Vamos a ver.
Showing that we can have fun with learning when we create.
They use problem-solving skills, hands-on learning.
Otro ejemplo.
You probably don't realize it, but buildings account for 40% of our carbon emissions. But the technology exists to make our homes carbon neutral or even carbon negative, like this house.
This building uses about 90% less energy than the typical building.
This isn't just an energy-efficient home. It represents a new way of building homes, a kit of parts that you assemble on-site. This means that appealing, sustainable homes could soon be faster to build and more affordable than traditional construction. This is Don Bonnell, one of the founders of Node, a startup that is making flat pack housing.
Why do we still build homes the way we did 100 years ago? Why does it take a year to build a house? Doesn't make any sense. This is fundamentally an engineering and industrial design problem. We're working on a flat pack system that is engineered to go together really quickly and really easily.
It's a bit like IKEA, where packing the components of furniture into flat boxes makes it massively easier to ship them, and you can assemble it on site.
We find that when we say IKEA, people think that's so cheap, and I always get into a fight building a bookcase with my partner, and we find when other people say IKEA, it works really well for us. But what if the home kit were that easy to install? What if someone who could install an IKEA kitchen could install a Node house?
This building is a prototype for a carbon negative building. So it makes more renewable energy that it consumes. Buildings account for about 40% of carbon emissions. Homes are about half of that. We really started the company around how do we make buildings more sustainable.
Don wanted to make homes that were carbon neutral or negative. He partnered with Beck Chapin to design energy-efficient homes made from sustainable and non-toxic materials.
So this is like kind of this snapshot into the very earliest of the Node kit. We're using a recycled denim insulation instead of a fiberglass, as well as a rigid foam wrap on the exterior. We have eco-bats in the ceiling, all about 30% above code. We've seen the cost of construction rise. Don and I know that the only way that we're going to get sustainable homes to be the norm is if we can build it cheaper. So our prefab kit has to address cost.
One of the things we are doing is we're trying to make good design accessible to folks. We figured out really early on that it's not impactful if you can only make buildings for the 1%. So if you make a beautiful, sustainable buildings, but it's only for rich people, well, that really doesn't make a big impact because we really need to adopt this on a mass scale.
We can put it in a container, put it on a train, send it anywhere. 2 people can unload the whole thing. Regular sized trucks, no specialty permits, no specialty licenses. When you're not shipping air, you can ship more in smaller spaces, but then it all comes down to the assembly.
Right now, a big part of what makes building homes expensive and slow is labor. And there are labor shortages in the trades connected to housing.
The construction labor shortage has been forecasted for a very, very long time. Less people are going into trade schools and trades positions, more people going into computers and high-tech jobs and service jobs. In the Great Recession, we lost a huge chunk of construction labor, people who left the pool that never came back. And we haven't seen the numbers yet, but our new immigration policy in the US is absolutely hurting housing. Immigrants build houses, and they're not around anymore.
One of the ways we get buildings to folks at scale is to bring a new workforce to bear on housing. Our goal is to do it in under 2 weeks with just 4 people. That totally changes the economics.
Housing is one of the most basic human needs, and right now we're not doing a good enough job of addressing it. Homelessness is still a problem in even the most prosperous countries. Could we make housing affordable enough to make it as accessible and ubiquitous as other manufactured goods?
I think the assumption's always been you can build really cheaply or you can build really sustainably, but you can't do both. And our argument is you can actually have well-designed, beautiful, sustainable homes that are affordable to everybody. We actually think that's a basic right. So can you house people and also do good things for the planet at the same time? We think you can.
I think one of the things that we have in the US is enough. We have enough money. We have enough smarts. Do we have enough will to fix the problem? We can send space shuttles to space. Can we get everyone indoors?
Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it.
Vámonos a lo esencial. Aquí, ¿por qué esto o por qué este proyecto me gusta y por qué lo considero relevante? De nuevo, se va sobre una necesidad básica, que es la necesidad de la vivienda. Ojo, van a encontrarse el resto del año un debate increíble sobre el derecho a la vivienda y sobre la importancia de la vivienda, no así la propiedad, etc. 20,000 problemas que están hoy por hoy acuciando o atacando nuestro diario vivir, ¿no? O sea, es una necesidad básica el tener un lugar donde vivir. Y vámonos desde la parte de mercadotecnia. Esta solución lo que pretende o lo que propone, vean, desde el hecho del diseño de producto, genera un producto que es deseable, que es armónico, que es bonito, que es algo que todos querríamos comprar. Este tipo de casas, esta casa es bastante más bonita que muchas viviendas de interés social o que muchísimas viviendas que existen. Digo, yo entiendo que ahorita la estamos viendo en un entorno boscoso y se ve fantástica, pero el producto de la casa modular como tal es un productazo y es algo que ya existe, es una tendencia de construcción, es una tendencia de un producto que va a ser requerido a futuro. Ajá, o bueno, no a futuro, el día de hoy ya se está comercializando muchísimo y es un gran producto el vender vivienda modular y el vivienda estilo Lego. Adicional a todo esto, es la generación de un proyecto de vivienda sustentable con huella de carbono negativa. ¿Qué es nuestra huella de carbono? ¿Cuántas emisiones generamos nosotros o cuántas emisiones genera un producto? Y este producto per se, tanto en su fabricación teóricamente como en su utilización, genera una huella negativa. ¿Qué es esto? Que inclusive debido al uso de materiales reciclables, ayuda a que su impacto o su huella de carbono sea asuma o contrarreste la huella de carbono de la producción de otros productos. Entonces, teniendo eso en cuenta, se vuelve un producto tremendamente interesante, tremendamente bueno para vender y tremendamente comprable, por así decirlo, ¿no? Entonces, es una iniciativa bastante interesante. Por otro lado, por acá lo comentaba, la producción genera empleos y genera empleos en comunidades marginadas con problemas. Entonces, este tipo de desarrollos podemos realizarlos en otros puntos, en donde desempleo a personas que antes no lo tenían o que no tengan que trasladarse a otros sitios para ejercer ese empleo de construcción y resuelve varios problemas. Y si se dan cuenta, es algo que a medida que vaya creciendo y que el consumo y la demanda vaya generándose e incrementándose, aquí estamos viendo una mina de oro a futuro. ¿De acuerdo? Entonces puede ser algo tremendamente interesante y tremendamente valioso, sin mencionar que el producto per se está muy bien diseñado y esta onda de la construcción ecosustentable y de el utilizar y el reutilizar materiales fomentando la economía circular es una tendencia que a posteriori va a ser tremendamente socorrida por muchísimos productores. Se va a volver el estándar. Entonces, entenderlo desde ahorita es algo como que muy, muy interesante y muy bueno. Entonces, vamos a ver esta otra de acá, otro videito. Déjenme dejar de compartir dejar de compartir acá. Nos volvemos acá, volver a ir a compartir mi pantalla. Aquí, compartir. Ok. Entonces, teóricamente, bien, deben de estar viendo otra vez la presentación. Vamos a ver el tercer proyecto, que me resulta también muy interesante. Esperen un segundito. Y déjenme subirle aquí, ponerle audio. Y ahí deben de poderlo escuchar. Esperen, a ver, justo aquí, compartir esta pestaña en su lugar y... Okay.
These are excavators. But this one is different. No one is operating it. As our world continues to grow and evolve, so do our infrastructure needs.
Bridges are going to fall apart, dams are going to break, levees are going to be overwhelmed, and the reason that we're not doing that kind of work right now is just too expensive. But if we don't take care of them, then it's going to cost even more in the long run.
This is Noah Reedy Campbell. His company, Built Robotics, is dedicated to finding a solution.
You know, those kinds of massive infrastructure projects, they need to happen over the next 10, 20 years. And I think robots are going to play a really big role.
And if they succeed, it would fundamentally change the way our world is built. But how?
If you were a construction worker in 1900 and you looked at how people build today, it's very similar actually. So the industry is it's been kind of static.
At the start of the 20th century, hydraulics made their way into construction. In the 1960s, this technology became mainstream. What used to be powered by cables and steam now had the power and precision of hydraulics. But since then, not much has changed.
We really believe that what's going to happen next is that you're not going to see the innovation on the mechanical side, and instead you're going to start to see it on the software side. You don't necessarily need to have a person who's in there, moving every single lever. There's an opportunity to really make a big difference in an industry that's been neglected or ignored by the technology industry for a long time.
Silicon Valley hasn't really made inroads in the construction industry, but Noah has history there.
I started Built because my dad worked in construction when I was a kid, and every summer I worked for him when I was in high school. Back in 2016, I was like, Dad, look, there's this idea I really want to tell you about. I think I know what I want to do for my next company. I want to automate heavy equipment. And he's like, look, if you really want to do this, before you automate equipment, you better learn how to operate it first. So the next morning I woke up, I called the local John Deere dealer, and I rented an excavator. And I told my mom that for Mother's Day I was going to dig her a pond. And by the end of it, I could start kind of get the gears turning, thinking about how I could write software to allow the machine to do some of the work that I was doing. 6 months later, we had our first prototype up and running.
4 years later, Built has done a dozen projects on 2 continents. The way they've done this is pretty clever. They actually don't make any construction equipment.
So what we develop is an AI guidance system that you can install on commercially available off-the-shelf equipment from Cat, Deere, Komatsu, any of the major manufacturers. And then we write the software that goes inside that system and interfaces with the machine so that it's able to navigate around the job site. And it's using stuff like GPS, cameras, LiDAR, radar in order to observe its environment. And then robotic equipment operators are able to load in plans or blueprints and then tell the machine exactly what they want it to do. And you set it up, you hit go, and you come back at the end of the day when the machine's done.
You might be wondering, isn't this just going to take away construction jobs?
Robots don't automate jobs, they automate tasks. We really think of the robot as basically a force multiplier for those operators on the job site. So, they don't have to be doing those sort of mundane, simple tasks, which are kind of a waste of somebody with that level of skill. And instead they can focus on the higher touch, higher value work.
Imagine a future where one operator is managing 2, 5, or even 10 of these machines. Job sites that used to sit idle could now have robots working around the clock. A job that would have taken months before now takes weeks. How fast would we be able to build the next Empire State Building or Panama Canal?
At the end of the day, I'm a nerd. I love the technology. I think technology is actually an incredible force for good. And the long-term vision is not just excavators or not just earth moving. It's working on a variety of different tasks throughout the whole construction stack. It's already a massive industry, but there's actually a whole lot more that could be done. We could have much better roads, so we don't have the same kind of traffic. Building wind farms, solar farms, water pipelines, more energy efficient buildings. And I think there's tremendous appetite where people want to shape the world. And if we can figure out ways to let the humans focus on the design, the aesthetics, the art that goes along with building, and then let machines do the more repetitive, mundane, we can actually shape our environment in a way that could have a radical impact on everything. It's not just a matter of what we want, it's a matter of what is necessary.
Thanks for watching. I hope you like this video. Please follow us on Facebook.
¿Qué es lo relevante de esta idea? Obviamente realiza una aplicación de tecnología súper avanzada, como es la aplicación como es la utilización de inteligencia artificial y programación para la gestión o el manejo o el autopilotaje de unidades autónomas. Eso es una tendencia que vamos a ver en el futuro, o sea, en los siguientes 20 años, y ustedes se acordarán de mí, vamos a ver la mayor cantidad de vehículos y de maquinaria autopilotada o pilotada por inteligencia artificial que hayamos visto en la historia de la Tierra. O sea, eso es una tendencia que se va a generar. Entonces, la aplicación de esto para generar construcción y maniobras y desarrollo que sea más amigable con el medio ambiente, que ayude a generar más empleos, resulta en una iniciativa social y resulta en una iniciativa de beneficios tanto a la sociedad como al medio ambiente. Pero voy a lo mismo, es una persona que ocupó el conocimiento que ya tenía o sus conocimientos de su área de expertise llevados a el desarrollo de una aplicación tremendamente tecnológica. Entonces, ¿por qué me gusta esta iniciativa? ¿Por qué les platico de esta? O me gusta que la vean. Es porque es una persona que de su día a día saca una idea de un mejoramiento que lleva a una idea tremendamente revolucionaria y tremendamente padre. Entonces, esto es un ejemplo de cómo ustedes, no gestionen un proyecto tan grande, pero de aquello en lo que ustedes se muevan pueden sacar una idea con una aplicación, aunada a una aplicación tremendamente tecnológica, pueden sacar un proyecto que puede ser fascinante y verdaderamente increíble. Entonces, déjenme vamos a volver a la presentación y entonces compartir esta pestaña en su lugar. Vamos a ver un siguiente proyecto. Déjenme ir cerrando los que ya fueron. Esto no lo cierro, esto no. Entonces, denme un segundito. Esto es compartiendo, debes compartir esta pestaña. Déjenme subirla acá. Vamos a ver este otro y les voy explicando al final. Compartiendo esta pestaña, sí, ok.
The appeal of a virtual world is obvious. Unconstrained by anything but our imagination, we can create worlds without limit. That's what Lauren and Andy are doing. They're building Zenith, a virtual universe that they hope will be a social and entertainment hub for millions of people.
When you look at a lot of what's going on in the world right now, it's driven by fear and it's driven by isolation.
They have a vision for a new type of community that unlocks the potential of VR while addressing the challenges plaguing many online communities.
You can have experiences that you just physically cannot have in the real world.
These virtual worlds can be empathy machines.
We think that we can help people to be their best and most authentic selves, and that will spill out into the real world. I mean, in a sense, what we are doing is beta testing a universe.
I'm sure you guys have seen or heard of Ready Player One. What Spielberg was selling was the vision of living in a virtual world, not just watching it. And so that's what we're building. We're building a virtual world that people can live in, just like Ready Player One.
Andy and Lauren are the co-founders of Ramen VR, a small studio coming out of Y Combinator and backed by Oculus. They're trying to create Zenith, an entire universe set in virtual reality.
We view Zenith as not just a game. We see this as a bonding experience. It could be that third space where people gather together and have meaningful social experiences.
A third space, for some people, is a cafe or a bar, or even a bookstore, where they can socialize and connect with others outside of work or home.
I think people don't give games a lot of credit. You can learn a lot from games about problem solving, about cooperation and working with other people. When it comes to Zenith, we've designed it with this bigger picture in mind, which is to build a world that people can live in and spend a lot of time in.
You can do anything and be anyone. We're just building a world that's as real and visceral as the one we're sitting in right now. So how can we create a world that is a positive influence on society when it is just yet another virtual world that people can get lost in?
There isn't really a blueprint for how to design a world, how to design a culture, how to design a society. The first step to doing that, I think, is just to make a game that's fun.
The gameplay modes do have an impact on what kind of culture is built. Our first iteration is going to be focused on PvE content, which is player versus environment. So you and other players are collaborating together to kill monsters that are driven by artificial intelligence. We think the community building and that early seed of players we bring in is just as important as the game that we're building itself. So part of the reason why we're working on this is to make sure that VR is a more social experience rather than an isolating one.
If recent history has taught us anything, it's that our virtual personas sometimes inhabit pretty terrible virtual worlds. These are all online phenomena that can and do have negative impacts on the real world. To be honest, it's not entirely clear that Lauren and Andy have all the answers, and I think they would be the first to admit that. And they're working really hard to learn from those mistakes. They're building the universe that they want to inhabit.
Some people feel like they can never be their whole selves ever in front of anyone else. Anonymity is definitely a double-edged sword because people can do great things and they can do terrible things if you don't know who they are. So I think one thing that might be interesting is the concept of pseudonymity. First thing, we wanted to make sure that people's avatars could reflect how they wanted to look. Everything from the height to the face to the skin tone to the hair. And we also wanted the voice to reflect how people wanted to sound. It happens a lot where women who are in online games, as soon as you say something into the mic, there's a flood of harassment that comes in. So we want people to have the option to change their voice, and not just out of fear of harassment, but just because that's a part of who you are too.
I guess everything can be used for good and for bad, right? I think it's more about, does that engagement lead to a positive outcome or a negative outcome? So for us, it's about building the positive feedback loops that cause people to be friendlier and better to each other and to really realize the potential in themselves.
I think it's fair to say that right now no one knows how to do this. This is a new thing that people are still figuring out. And it's nice to know that people like Andy and Lauren are putting the right kind of energy and intention into answering these questions.
The game isn't in anyone's hands right now. But honestly, one of the things that I'm proudest of that we've done so far is build a community. We have a community of about 6,000 people right now on Discord. And that community is very strong, it's very passionate. This is when you see, does this float when you stick it all together, or does it sink?
One thing is clear. More people will be doing this. And that means more people will need to ask a serious question. What kind of universe do I want to create?
With Zenith, gameplay becomes the shared experience that people bond over. I think if this succeeds, it'll have a transformative effect on how our society works and functions in the long term.
Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this video. Please follow us on Facebook.
Ok, ¿por qué esta idea es relevante o por qué esta idea tiene mucho que estudiar o que aprenderle? Están tomando, de nuevo, una necesidad y un uso de algo que hacemos todos los días. Lo vamos a platicar más adelante, pero el uso de las nuevas tecnologías para generar metaversos o metauniversos o universos en los cuales podemos generar experiencias inmersivas es algo que se va a desarrollar muchísimo en los próximos años. ¿Por qué? Y esto va a sonar muy horrible. Nuestra realidad tiene tantos contras y tantos peros que muchísima gente prefiere evadirse de la realidad y empezar a vivir vidas más plenas y más alegres en mundos virtuales. O sea, como que la mejor parte de tu día sea el tiempo que pasas en estos metaversos. Y obviamente es algo que ya vivimos en el tiempo que pasamos en las redes sociales y cómo las utilizamos psicológicamente para evadirnos de problemas y de la realidad que vivimos. Ahora bien, teniendo esto en cuenta, también hay muchos malos usos que hacemos de estas tecnologías y eso genera muchos otros problemas en torno a el disfrute de la misma tecnología. Entonces, lo que hacen estos chicos es generar un ambiente seguro, un ambiente de expresión, un ambiente que apoye a personas que no se desenvuelven tan bien o que tienen estos problemas como de sufrir del acoso, etc. Entonces, la iniciativa apoya a un grupo social que se ve envuelto en un problema utilizando una tecnología que ya utilizamos hoy por hoy. Si esto, más bien, no si, cuando esto llegue a su punto máximo de desarrollo, estaríamos hablando de una empresa o una industria de miles de millones de dólares. Entonces es una oportunidad de negocio tremenda que aparte deja un bien a una comunidad específica. Entonces, por eso es relevante este proyecto. El cómo utilizamos las propias redes y los propios juegos tiene mucho que ver con todo lo que podemos hacer o el bien que podemos hacer en un plano de un producto que ya utilizamos. Entonces, por eso se me hace muy relevante. Vamos a ver otro ejemplo y otro tipo de producto. Si se dan cuenta, les he estado dando ejemplos de cosas que ustedes podrían, dentro de lo que ustedes ya hacen, aplicar, o dentro de lo que ustedes ya conocen y dentro del ambiente en el que se desenvuelven, cosas en donde podrían aplicar preceptos de utilizar ya el producto, mejorar el producto para que sea más sustentable, utilizar el uso, cambiar el uso, concientizar sobre el problema a través de cómo estamos utilizando la tecnología, a través de varias de estas ideas. Entonces vamos a ver un par más para que se vayan con una buena idea. Esperen un segundito. Déjenme quitar esto y vamos a poner esta otra, ¿va? Esta es loca, pero me gusta porque habla mucho de una cosa, de un paradigma cultural.
This is my mom, and the diamond was made from her ashes.
This is a story about a radical death care company called Eternova. With backing from Mark Cuban, Eternova is turning people's lost loved ones into diamonds.
Wow. Welcome home, honey.
The way people react when they hear about this, it was either like, this is the most amazing and incredible idea I've ever heard, or like, I don't know, this is kind of weird.
They believe that America's cultural response to loss is broken, leaving people without rituals to help them heal.
Grief is an experience we're all going to go through. It's one of the most shared human experiences there is, and yet it's governed by just tradition and obligation. That's doing more harm than good. And so we have to overcome every obstacle because the cost of our mission not being seen out is too high.
There's a slight lag. If I step on you at all, I apologize. I'm not trying to cut you off. There's just a little bit of a lag.
I'm literally fundraising right now, and all VCs do is cut you off, so I'm very used to it. This is one of our machines. This one is under pressure, so we are currently actively growing a diamond right now. At these stations...
Adele Archer is the co-founder and CEO of Eternova, and she's on a mission to transform the way that we grieve. After completing her MBA, Adele got the idea for Eternova in 2015 after losing her good friend and mentor, Tracy.
When Tracy passed, she actually had her ashes split between three of us, and she was just like, hey, you know, go do something meaningful that you think both of us would really like. So we started doing a ton of research. Everything felt really like trinkety and cheap and transactional, and you know, nothing kind of really spoke to me.
But then Adele had a conversation with the diamond scientist.
And he's like, well, if we can get the carbon out of Tracy's ashes, like, I think we could grow you a diamond. And I mean, as soon as he said it, I was like, this is the idea. This is the thing that I'm meant to work on. She was the first diamond that we ever made. This is her black diamond. I wear it every single day.
I am so excited to introduce y'all to Peggy. We are growing two beautiful diamonds, one for her daughter, Lori, and another for her grandson, Alex.
Anytime you start a company, it's like a huge roller coaster. One of the challenging things about starting Eternova was just like, it was so unknown in so many different ways. I mean, like, what we do has so much pressure, you know? Like, we're handling someone's most valuable possession, basically. And you have this incredibly difficult thing to do, which is growing a diamond from carbon.
In the beginning, when we started, this was a crazy supply chain to set up. A lot of these scientists don't even exist in the United States. You know, we were hunting down scientists internationally, you know, flying to Europe, convincing them to get coffee with me, and having to learn how to negotiate in completely different business cultures. A lot of this technology actually came out of Russia. So dealing with Russian business culture, it's so different than the United States. Honestly, that was kind of my first encounter with a bit of misogyny. Gosh, I learned a lot, but Lord, the lows can be excruciating. We've had moments where our entire supply chain went away. They basically were like, good luck.
And then, in 2019, Eternova caught a big break. a $600,000 deal with Mark Cuban.
Going on Shark Tank, I mean, that was a moment. We were the first death care company ever to go on Shark Tank. That was really a turning point too in how people started seeing this. They're like, oh wow, what if diamonds become the new urn?
Eternova commissioned grief research from Baylor University to investigate the diamond's impact on the recipient's mourning experience.
This is like John coming home.
John coming home.
Early reports suggest that Eternova's months-long diamond-making process supports the vast majority of participants through their grief journey.
You know, going into this, we thought that this was all about the diamond. But what we ended up finding was every time we shared an update with the family,
options better suited to individual values.
I think what resonates with a lot of people about the diamond is you have that physical anchor to your loved one.
This is the most precious thing I own.
One of the things that I realized was that I really find a lot of purpose in helping somebody through a hard time and helping them find some brightness in it. Eternova's mission is, really to challenge culture and to shift people's perceptions of grief and loss. There's this window of time that they're forming meaning around what just happened. And if you can meet them in that window and you can help shape the messages that they tell themselves, you can go and change the world.
Ok, respecto a tengo mis dudas respecto a la sustentabilidad del proyecto como tal. Lo que yo pienso que es muy rescatable es el nivel de innovación cultural que representa y el nivel de cambio del paradigma cultural y sobre todo lo aventurado de la idea. Entonces, piensen en algo que vemos todos los días, bueno, no todos los días, pero algo a lo que le damos tanta importancia como los diamantes per se y la muerte per se, y cómo se da una resignificación cultural y se genera un producto que muchísima gente va a querer comprar y muchísima gente va a querer tomar como una alternativa. Al mismo tiempo, los entierros compostables lo son. Hay muchas alternativas, pero el chiste o lo que quiero que aprecien de este proyecto en particular es el nivel de innovación y cómo algo que es como tan tabú puede convertirse en un proyecto verdaderamente innovador y verdaderamente interesante. Ajá. Vamos a mostrarles otro. Y digo, es importante que los analicemos todos y cada uno poco a poco, porque de esa manera ustedes van a tener como que mayor oportunidad de pues generar ideas e inspirarse, y es como hacia donde quiero llevarlos, ¿ok? Vamos a ver este otro, denme un segundito, a ver. Oh, se dejó de compartir. A ver, este de acá, vamos a compartir esto y compartir esta parte aquí. Déjenme hacer esto un poco más grande y acá, ¿ok?
This is Abby, and she's putting on her new prosthetic arm for the first time. But this isn't a normal prosthetic. This is the most advanced 3D printed prosthetic ever made.
Typical prosthetic devices can cost anywhere from $20,000 to about $80,000. That's a big problem for growing children. Children outgrow a prosthetic device every 12 to 14 months.
The global prosthetics and orthotics industry is valued at $6 billion and controlled by a handful of players that have no incentive to lower their prices or change their operating models.
There's been no real structural change in the market for the last 50 years. There's been some technology improvements, but not a systematic change, which I think is really what's needed to, be able to make a significant impact. 40 million amputees worldwide, only 5% of them have access to prosthetic care and technology. And so we got to do better as an industry. And at Unlimited Tomorrow, we hope to be that force.
This is Easton LaChapelle, the CEO of Unlimited Tomorrow.
I use science fairs as an excuse to make something cool every year. I was a kid who loved to tinker and take things apart. I always had a curiosity for how things work and why things work. And when I was 14, I came up with an idea to make a robotic hand controlled using a control glove. I always wanted to go into robotics, but for me, it was always a kind of this far-fetched career like making robots.
Then one day, Easton met a 7-year-old girl at a science fair whose story would change his life. She had an $80,000 prosthetic arm, made with technology less sophisticated than what Easton, a 14-year-old, was developing in his bedroom.
This little girl would soon outgrow this. It was heavy, bulky, it didn't really look human-like, it was extremely expensive, and I just expected better from the world of technology. There's just gotta be something better. And the more I looked into this, there really wasn't.
Easton decided to try to fix this problem, and quickly caught the attention of some celebrities interested in making an impact.
I was just about to graduate high school, and I got a call from Tony Robbins, and a couple months later, we formed the company Unlimited Tomorrow. I wasn't 18 at the time, so I had to wait until I could legally own a company for the deal to go through. Starting a business at 18 was a huge challenge. It wasn't easy to jump straight into the startup environment and to run a business. I didn't feel like I knew what to do. I didn't feel like I had the skill sets. It took so much trial and error and learning from so many different mediums, lots of different books, presentations, and videos, and courses. There's a lot of challenge when you find yourself in this situation. It's extremely motivating, but it is hard. We can do OTA ourselves. It just turns into like writing custom bootloaders, which you just did.
Easton overcame those initial hurdles and put together a team focused on figuring out how to bring down the cost of manufacturing an advanced prosthetic.
Typical prosthetic devices can cost anywhere from $20,000 to about $80,000. They vary widely. There is so many different layers of problems. There's a lot of middlemen. There's a lot of insurance billing. It's staggered. A lot of times people have to travel across the states to see a specialist. That's where you end up with an $80,000 device when it doesn't really need to cost that.
To bring down the cost, Unlimited Tomorrow has brought the entire process in-house. They send customers a 3D scanner to scan their residual limb at home. Then they use those scans to create a set of check sockets, which are shipped to the customer for a video evaluation with Unlimited Tomorrow's clinical team to assess comfort and fit. This is repeated until the fit is perfect. Then the team 3D prints, assembles, and tests the device before it's shipped and ready to train.
They could bring clinicians and expertise in-house. Instead of having kind of this distributed model, have remote care, and we could essentially democratize a lot of the system. We could work with more and more people and eventually get up to a global level through this type of distribution and remote fitting process. Historically, you could get this kind of robotic advanced hand that had a good finger movement, or you could get this passive device that looked very human-like but didn't move. TrueLimb is the world's most affordable prosthetic device on the market. It unlocks a new level of personalization never thought before. We match skin tone exactly. Each device is made unique to the person down to the size, shape, and feel. We pack so many incredible features such as sense of touch, easy to use movement, and it's also extremely lightweight and durable. And we believe that this is setting a foundation for global change within this industry. Up to date, we've produced hundreds of TrueLimbs. TrueLimb is literally a fraction of the cost of traditional prosthetic devices. It's $7,995 for everybody. And for children who outgrow a device, it's about $4,000, half that.
Unlimited Tomorrow's program for children who outgrow their TrueLimb ensures children can grow with their device by sending their TrueLimb back for a new shell and socket fitting process. This keeps prices low for their parents.
I wish you could feel it. It's so different. I have never experienced the sensation of having fingers that move like that on this side of my body. I wonder if I can I just got this open. I've never done that in my life, what I just did. I've never done that. I can't even describe to you the sensation. Like, I first put it on, it was like, that felt cool, but when that thing moved and gripped and held that stuff, that was special.
Every time a Trulim leaves our door, I feel incredibly humbled and proud of our product and what we've created. We see these videos and pictures and these incredible emails that we get from people who are using these devices that might be able to hold a family member's hand and walk their dog for the first time. You know, little moments like that always stand out to me. We were working with a young girl in Colorado at one point, and you know, she was able to roll down her long sleeve shirts on both sides for the first time, and that really hit me. I never thought about that before, and I think it's those small moments that continue to, you know, just really ignite what I'm doing here.
Este es posiblemente uno de mis favoritos, por muchísimas razones, por lo que implica y por el cambio en la vida de las personas que representa y que simboliza. Ahora, digo, es normal, yo también lo viví y uno lo piensa. Imagínense, uno termina de estudiar la carrera de Mercadotecnia y lo primero lo que quiere trabajar es, sí, yo quiero trabajar en Nike, yo quiero trabajar en Adidas, yo quiero trabajar en la industria de la música, en la industria del cine, yo quiero trabajar en X y Y, ¿no? Entonces, imagínense que ustedes desarrollaron una agencia de mercadotecnia que se enfocara en hacerle la mercadotecnia a esta clase de desarrollos. ¿Por qué? Yo entiendo que posiblemente por nuestra área de estudio no estemos capacitados o no tengamos el conocimiento, que de hecho sí podrían, pero bueno, de desarrollar, por ejemplo, algo así. Pero también entiendan que lo que estudiaron les ayuda a comunicar, vender y acercar a las masas productos tan increíbles como este. Entonces, mientras tú tienes a un montón de chicos enfocados en estudiar ingeniería biomédica, tú como mercadólogo podrías generar una agencia que venda estos productos y estos proyectos biomédicos a la gran masa. Entonces, ese podría ser tu proyecto. Ajá. Y vean como una idea que es bastante simple, la reducción de costo de un producto que es tremendamente útil, necesario y life-changing, ¿no? Life changer. O sea, pues funciona a muchísimos niveles. Entonces, a mí esto se me hace súper inspirador, pero más allá del, diseñen un artilugio mecánico que cambie las vidas de las personas, no, piénsenlo así, generar una agencia que contribuya a difundir esta clase de productos, a vender estos productos y ser una agencia que se enfoque en esta clase de tecnología y en esta clase de ventas. Vender uno de estos brazos ha de ser complicado, pero una vez que encuentras el nicho mercadológico de cómo comunicarlo, cómo venderlo, cómo explicarlo, cómo abaratar los costos, cómo hacer la distribución, eso es el plano de la mercadotecnia social que ustedes pueden hacer. Ajá. Vamos a ver un último ejemplo para... o no sé si me quedan dos, pero vamos a ver un ejemplo más para que ustedes, déjenme compartir pantalla de nuevo, para que ustedes tengan como que más de dónde inspirarse y hacia dónde ir. Déjenme ver si este ya lo vimos. Iniciativas de desarrollo de productos, espérenme un segundito. Ok. Por ejemplo, en cuanto el que les voy a mostrar a continuación, tiene que ver con... Compartir esto en su lugar. Tiene que ver con la industria de productos de higiene femenina. Ajá. Quiero que vean cómo le da un cambio totalmente revolucionario y algo que pudiera ser tan simple le da una vuelta de 521 grados y se vuelve algo muy interesante.
I wake up every single day with the anxiety of, oh my gosh, who am I to think that we can reimagine periods?
Do you change your life for 1 week because of that time of the month?
Menstruation is considered something to be ashamed of. Like, it's so ridiculous that we have grown up on these ads where we see pads in a lab context where there's blue liquid poured on it. Why aren't we real about it? We need to make the industry accountable for creating and perpetuating negative stigmas around periods.
This is Nadia Okamoto. She's the 23-year-old co-founder of August, a lifestyle period brand on a mission to fight period stigma. By leveraging the viral power of social media with some pretty controversial content, Nadia is stoking a movement to normalize menstrual care.
A lot of Gen Z uses social media as something that we express our feelings through, and I think that is what positions Gen Z uniquely to have a part in creating movements and be disruptors.
So, can Nadia rally a generation to change the way we think about periods? Or will she lose to the status quo, reinforced by a $20 billion industry?
Hi friends, so I've been getting a lot of questions about this. So about the different wing sizes on our pads. Again,
Nadia Okamoto is the co-founder and CEO of August, a business she refers to as a lifestyle period brand. They're trying to reimagine menstrual care with sustainable, ethically sourced period products.
We are at the August headquarters in New York City. This is where we work. We just launched like a month and a half ago. Here is where we have our little shipping area. These are our boxes.
Their secret sauce is social networking. Before they launched, Nadia grew their Instagram presence to 5 times the size of Tampax's, without any paid media.
So like this got 315,000 likes and we've got like 400 sales from it.
August aims to challenge the way society views and talks about periods.
People get into big debates. This is where I showed my menstrual blood and it got 90,000 likes and people were pissed about it.
In the midst of the controversy, Nadia's posts are sparking a conversation among people who identify with the content, but before August, were too embarrassed to talk about these issues openly. Their success online convinced investors that they were onto something. In June of 2021, they launched with $2 million in seed funding.
Right now, we're not in stores yet. We're purely online, direct-to-consumer.
Nadia, like most in her generation, grew up with social media.
Social media has been the bane of my existence and cause of all anxiety and depression. Not all, but it's also been like the vehicle in which I built my career.
Nadia has over 300,000 followers online, and for years has been using her influence to bring attention to the issues she's most passionate about.
Please welcome Nadia Okamoto.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to talk about periods.
Nadia became obsessed with periods as a teenager when she learned about the injustices caused by period stigma, and it pissed her off.
Periods are a leading cause of absenteeism for girls in school around the US. Food stamps don't cover period products. 40 states at the time had the sales tax on period products, but Rogaine and Viagra were considered medical necessities and didn't have that tax.
I would sit there and think to myself, are you fucking kidding me? So that's when I decided that I needed to do something.
She started her first nonprofit at 16 and grew it to be one of the largest fighting period stigma. Then, she went to Harvard, ran for office, wrote a book on the menstrual movement, and co-founded a Gen Z marketing agency that attracted some of the biggest names in femme care. She's been featured in Forbes 30 Under 30, the Bloomberg 50, and People's Women Changing the World. And all of that was in just 5 years.
I am a recovering workaholic in the way of like, I have been chronically constipated where I hadn't like pooped in 2 weeks because I looked at it as a waste of time to send 2 more emails. I had grown my career on passing out from exhaustion, being rushed to the emergency room and being told I need to slow down and being like, fuck you, I'm working hard and I'm gonna do this. Like 1 year ago today, I was in residential rehab. And that was a really unexpected part of my founding journey. We started raising our seed round and we had a few investors who took their money back, who are now back with us, but who took their money back because they're like, we don't know if you're gonna be able to come back from this.
After her stint in rehab and with the support of her friends and family, Nadia began to recover.
But like, it's hard, right? Because to be honest, like that way of thinking is what has gotten me to have this track record. If I'm gonna run a company that is about wellness and about taking care of our bodies, I need to lead by example. My biggest fear is that we're gonna fail and crash and burn. Who am I to think that this stigma in industry is something that me and a bunch of young people can like take on? And my conclusion is that I believe that we can, and I believe that the only way that we can is by showing up unapologetically and trying to do so.
Every movement starts with a conversation, and Gen Z is speaking up. They're diverse, educated, and determined to fix the mistakes that previous generations have left behind. And Nadia and her team are betting that Gen Zers can help carry out their mission to normalize periods.
Our target demographic are Gen Z menstruators. We're building a brand for a generation that is the biggest consumers statistically that this world has ever seen. And I think that that is what the opportunity is.
August is one of a number of mission-focused businesses working to destigmatize things like periods, mental health, and body diversity.
Period products in the past have been something that you hide in your shopping cart because you don't want people to see it and you awkwardly check out. We are trying to reimagine period care that is more personal and empowering. I believe that we need a company that is unafraid to say the word period, to talk about periods, to show menstrual blood. We get these messages of people who are like, I felt ashamed of my period my whole life. And for the first time, I have met a community of people who are unapologetic about their bodies. The proof point of that is something that keeps me going.
Cosa rescatable de aquí, o que a mí me gusta mucho, el espíritu de cambiar las cosas y de hacer tambalear el status quo con algo tan personal, tan estigmatizado, tan socialmente extraño y extravagante, sobre todo en nuestra sociedad latina, tremendamente machista y lo que ustedes digan. Cómo tomar algo que debe ser visto de una forma totalmente distinta y cómo luchar contra un sistema que es tremendamente opresor y feo. Y lo que es rescatable aquí es el espíritu de cómo una idea, una creencia personal puede literal llevarnos a crear una empresa lucrativa, una empresa muy exitosa y a cambiar el mundo. O sea, esa idea de que las cosas están de la mejor manera como están es totalmente errónea. Y de aquí podemos rescatar muchísimo eso. O sea, como el construir algo, una visión cultural, una visión de no tener fronteras y no tener miedo y sobre todo de desestigmatizar algo que es pues tremendamente natural y que es normal, ¿no? Y es una lucha en contra de muchísimos tabús que puede llevar al empoderamiento y que puede llevar a muchísimas cosas buenas. Ergo también puede llevar a la venta de un producto increíble, a la generación de una gran agencia de marketing. El universo de venta de productos aquí es tremendamente grande. Entonces, es una gran oportunidad para generar algo muy vendible y pues, un producto tremendamente exitoso, siempre y cuando se lleve pues, adecuadamente, ¿no? Entonces, es parte de lo que podría rescatar aquí. Me falta por ahí uno, me parece, pero creo que ya en mi cronómetro de lo que sería esta clase 0 parte 2, por así decirlo, ya vimos todo lo que, dejar de compartir esta pestaña, ya vimos todo lo que implicaría su proyecto final, todas las reglas de la clase y absolutamente todos los videos que traía como para inspirarlos un poquito y ayudarlos a generar ideas. En el siguiente video vamos ahora sí a ver los principales conceptos que son la parte más básica y lo que me interesa explicarles para que comiencen o para que todos comencemos con el mismo conocimiento básico de información, ¿ok? Entonces vamos a dejar hasta aquí este video que correspondería más o menos a lo que alcanzaríamos a ver en sus clases. Déjenme regresarme al plan original de clases, lo que correspondería a los primeros 2 episodios y la siguiente clase tengo que ocuparme de los siguientes 3 días que no los podré ver por la razón que ya conocemos, si todo sale bien. Ajá. Entonces vamos a estar platicando más adelante. Y hasta aquí voy a dejar este video para poder respaldar y grabar. Entonces, vamos a ver, voy a ponerle aquí que terminamos.